Hello and welcome to Chats, a television podcast, Season 5, DaisyChatz. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the unintelligent, robotic, long-legged chimpanzee android. It's Bobo the Bozo Robo Bobo Hobo Bonobo. Also known as Magellan.
Oh, man. You got inventive there, bud.
It took a lot of work. I had to fact-check myself. I'm like, does this line up with this? Did I get it right? Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Ugh, how you doing?
I'm good. This is a fun recording environment we're in, isn't it? Ain't it?
Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, we have our fun shower friend, the DaisyChatz companion in the background. Really just a stalwart companion for our show. And then also, it's been a day since we last recorded a podcast.
Yeah. We're on our grind.
Just a hot 24. Yeah, we're playing the catch-up game. We're here. So
did you just coin that, calling a day a hot 24?
I think I did. I think I just did that.
I think we got to make that nationwide.
I'll see you in a hot 24. Like, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're playing catch up, and we watched the finale today. It's a nice little Sunday episode, and we're gonna talk about it. So usually on DaisyChatz we watch 2 episodes of Pushing Daisies a week, and we discuss them. But this week we watched 1 episode because we hit the end of season 1. Mm-hmm. We watched season 1, episode 9, Corpsicle, which was written by Lisa Joy, directed by Brian Dannelly, and it aired December 12th, 2007. Magellan, what happened in this episode?
Well, Alan, the facts were these. It's Christmas, and Emerson and Ned investigate the death of an adjuster from Uber Life Insurance, who was found in a snowbank. Their investigation leads them to the home of Abner Newsom, a 14-year-old in need of a new heart, literally and figuratively. Meanwhile, Oscar Vibinius continues his attempt to figure out Chuck's secret.
Huh. Short, sweet, and to the point. Unlike this episode goes everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're just salting the earth with this one. I was really impressed, to be honest with you, man. I was like, beginning to end, like, oh, we're here? All right, we're doing it. Okay, yeah, let's go.
I just want to say, I thought the script was great.
Yeah, like, the fact that that Bozo Bonobo line is a reference to a line in the show, like, the wordplay and just the, like, quality of writing is on another level this week. It's really, it feels like everyone's bringing their A game.
Yeah, and it just had, every line had this kind of like underplayed syntactical, genius isn't the right word, but you know what I mean? Like that kind of Wes Anderson quality, but not annoying.
Well, that's a description of the whole entire show. Wes Anderson, but not annoying.
Yeah.
It's funny to me that Lisa Joy, who wrote this episode, went on to do a lot of Burn Notice, and also When You're a Spy. She also co-created Westworld, the hit HBO series.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, she.
I laughed because I just remembered that the SNL sketch where it's the game show of. You seen this one? The Burn Notice one?
I don't. No, not the Burn Notice one.
It's like a sketch where the game show, the whole point is like contestants have to try to describe what Burn Notice is about. And none of them know.
Because I mean, I can try. I've never watched Burn Notice. There's a spy, and he was like, his identity was put out there, so he had to take a new identity. And he has a bunch of spy friends and like a spy boss, and but he's like a hot spy, and they do spy adventures. Burn Notice.
Yeah, you're basically right.
I used to listen to this is dumb. I used to listen to a video games podcast that they turned into a Lost podcast that they then turned into a Burn Notice podcast. A spy recently disavowed by the U.S. government uses his special ops training to help others. I was close.
Yeah, you were close. You were pretty good.
And then they always did the When You're a Spy thing. People actually liked Burn Notice.
I liked it. I watched some episodes. It's fun. It's just the sketch is also very funny.
Yeah. But yeah, so what did you think of Corpsicle?
It kept my attention and interest more than the past few episodes, I think. And it had genuinely emotionally wrenching moments of character interaction. There are 2 scenes that stand out in particular for me. The first is Ned is looking for Chuck for a while, and it turns out that she's being hidden by Olive, and then Olive tells Ned that, so Ned finds her and talks to Chuck, and he's like, come on, what's the deal? Are you upset? And she's like, yeah, I kind of hate you. And that scene where he just wants to be around her and knows that doing that is worse for both of them, and you can see his heart like kind of slowly peeling in half. I really like that scene. And the other scene that struck me in that way was when Ned was in the car with Emerson, and he's talking about like how difficult things are, and it's like, you don't understand. And Emerson's like, oh, well, maybe I do understand. By the way, I have a daughter. There you go.
Yeah, he hit him with the story of Adidon, like diss track, except to himself. He was like, I'm hiding a child. That was so much, and it works. Like, when shows like this have the heavy moment, you're like, oh, like, it's really, you got to be really delicate with it, because if you are going from, like, whimsy and silliness straight into that type of realness, it can often feel disingenuous or separate or distant or fake.
Yeah, it's hard to take it seriously. I mean, that's the reaction we had at the end of the last episode where Ned's like, I killed your dad. You know, it just kind of total whiplash. But here it feels justified.
Like, what you need out of that conversation, out of that line, is the conversation that comes afterwards. We said this last week. And it takes them like 20 minutes or something into this episode before they finally have that conversation. And it's really good. It's really, like you said, just one of the best scenes of the episode is them being like, well, this can't work. This can't just go away. I want it to. It would be awesome if I couldn't think about this, but this is a huge deal. Point blank.
And it really, I really appreciate that they played this in a way that was honest to Chuck's character as she has existed so far. Because I said at the end of our last recording, I didn't know how this would go because Chuck is a reasonable person, right? She's not the kind of person who's going to say, we're like done forever. I can't believe you killed my dad. What? That's not the way that she acts. You know that she's going to be understanding, and that's going to make it more difficult for her. And so this is a kind of like fight that you don't really see on TV very often, I think, or in movies really, because those fights always have the period of like there's a misunderstanding and all that you have to do is clarify the misunderstanding.
Right.
But instead, there is no misunderstanding. Both characters totally know what's going on. Both characters totally see where the other person's coming from and totally validate and understand what the other person's feeling, but they're still hurt and she still hates him. And that, that is so real and feels so real to these characters and is something that you don't see in other TV or movie relationships very often. And that is a space that the show can go to and makes it worth watching and talking about.
Yeah, it sets itself apart in those moments, and in the fact that not only are the characters really honest and realistic with each other, but a lot of the emotional weight of this episode and this show is not explicit. It's to be assumed from adults watching the show who know how romance works. Like, they don't tell you why they should feel bad. And they don't tell you how dark it is that this young kid isn't getting a heart. But like, as a person who lives and has had family members or whatever with medical problems, like, yeah, it fucking sucks that insurance companies have to be evil like that. But that's somebody's job. That's just the way that somebody has to do their work. Like, it shakes me to my core to think about. But in the episode itself, they aren't saying those things. And I think it gives the episode so much more weight when they don't have to be so outspoken about it. It really works.
Yeah, and that comes through in Lee Pace's performance as well in this episode, where he the way that you described him is you said that he always looks put upon in the show
constantly.
I think that's true, or he always just looks like concerned about something.
Yeah.
Or bashful. Those are really his two emotions.
Yeah.
But we don't need to see him like sobbing to understand why he's hurt the way that he is, because everybody who's watching the show and seeing themselves in the Ned Chuck relationship has had a moment where, like, with someone that they truly deeply care about, they have done or said or experienced something that has caused the other person to be hurt in a way that they can't mend, or it can't mend right away. And you get that from him and the way that he looks at her and the way that she looks at him. So there was really rich subtlety in the performances in this episode that I appreciated.
And what's also really amazing about the way this episode turns around is it's not like there is no longer a big reveal that they have for each other. There are no big secrets anymore. And this episode is kind of framed as a series finale. From what I read, because they weren't sure until the last minute that they were getting another season, all of the stuff that hints at what's coming next was added later. Like, I bet you the final scene was added later,
right?
With Aunt Lily and all of that. But all of that, it feels like they are setting up mysteries and questions without making it feel like a tease. Like, honestly, the end of this episode is one of the most satisfying cliffhangers I've ever seen. Because it means a ton for the show and where it's going and its characters. But you didn't, like, you can say that, and then the show could also just end, and I'd be like, all right, yeah. We learned something. That reframes the past. Instead of just hinting at the future, it tells me something about what I've already seen. And I can can watch season one as a complete whole.
Rewatch the show, There's a new conception of it.
Right, because you go back and you think about how Aunt Lily has always been, like, they reinforce in the flashbacks.
Reveal that we're talking about, saying Aunt Lily is Chuck's mom.
She is, in fact, not Aunt Lily. She is Mrs. Charles.
Well, maybe. I mean, you don't have to be married to have a kid.
Well, she's okay. She's the senior, the elder Charles woman.
Well,
what's the word?
She might not be a Charles. The dad is Charles.
Oh, I see what you're saying. She could just also be. Well, we don't know her last name. True. Yeah. It makes you think about all the different times that she's been the distant aunt, and how, like in the flashbacks, how she's talking about how she doesn't hug people, except she does after Chuck dies, and then when she sees Ned, she does hug him and all this stuff. And it's like, oh man, all of this ties back together.
Mm-hmm. It gives you a lot of perspective on her and why she's so reserved, and why it's, for some reason, like, it didn't make sense before. Why is it so much harder for her to want to get back out there than it is for Lillian? And the reason is, well, her real daughter died.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Lily, by the way. Lily and Vivian.
What did I say? I said Lillian. Oh,
Lillian and Vivi.
Yeah, my bad.
I love Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah, Vivian. That's what I mean.
Did Olive have much to do in this episode other than be a shoulder to cry on?
Not
there's
really.
There's a difference between Olive's relationship to Chuck in this episode and Oscar's relationship to Chuck.
Yeah, Olive mostly was just in the episode to facilitate characters doing or having plot moments that they needed to have. So she was with Chuck, talking to Chuck about, like, why did you frame your death or fake your death or whatever. And that was a funny moment where Chuck tries to tell her the truth, and she says, "Okay, if you don't want to tell me." That's sort of a classic, fantastical story in the real world kind of trope, but I like it every time I see it.
Right. Yeah.
So she was there for that, and then she and Ned were talking, and then she's with the aunts. So really not a ton of movement for Olive, except now she has the secret about Aunt Lily, which is going to give her a little more to do, I think, in season 2.
Definitely, and she's thinking on the right track in terms of Chuck. Like, she was seeded a little bit more of those thoughts about, like, maybe Chuck's not normal and maybe something's going on there. There's a lot of talk about ghosts and spirits in this episode, which I think I'm surprised the show hasn't done yet, because just the idea of bringing someone back to life does technically, by definition, make them a specter, a ghost. Mm-hmm. And the show has not treated Chuck as a ghost so far. It's sort of treated her as a person given a second chance, like a real corporeal person, and not a resurrect, not like a zombie, and not a ghost, and not anything like that. It's like she is now returned to personhood, and that dichotomy gets played with in the wording of this episode. I like a lot.
Yeah. Just one last thing on Olive before I think we want to transition to talking about Oscar Vabinius, but
Yeah.
before we do that, just one thing I want to note is I think we try to stress often or as often as possible when shows succeed or fail at rendering female friendship, because it's something that's handled by and large pretty irresponsibly by entertainment media. And I think we should recognize the fact that other shows may have positioned Olive and Chuck to like hate each other and compete with each other. And it is good to see this show moving towards Olive is like a confidant for Chuck, and Olive is helping her to connect with her aunts, and Olive is a person in Chuck's life who has like a significant relationship to her that is different than just jealousy. Yeah.
Right. When I say it's a shoulder to cry on, I mean like it is a companionship. It is a respect and an empathy.
Yeah.
That really works. I think there's even more room for their friendship to change.
Yeah, for sure. But it's going in the right direction.
Definitely. Because like you could even argue that like the empathetic friend is still a bit of a trope. Like I'm the friend that you listen to and go like, oh fuck that guy, like he's bad.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but they're definitely getting there, and it is important for us to stress that that's a good thing. Where we're at.
Yeah.
Because I think Kristen Chenoweth's an amazing actress. I think she's
great. Yeah.
like brings a physicality because of her work on Broadway, and a musicality to her delivery that really works with this show's like snappy dialogue. It's really funny to have gone from the newsroom where like the snappy dialogue often gets just completely in the way of its storytelling. To this show where it's like quick back and forth makes it feel like poetry or theater, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it actually works in a way. And speaking of theatrics, I mean, Paul Rubens' character, Oscar Vabinius, really, really cool as the like Shakespearean character that you can sort of turn an ear to and pay and talk to, that will hear you and understand your plight without saying it back to you, but totally gets it.
Yeah.
Like the sort of devilish appeal of somebody being let into your world and understanding who you are and what is going on in your head.
Yeah.
Like that scene of them on the roof starts out really corny. And you and I, we watched this one together and we were like, oh man, this is weird. Like taking a minute to get past like the green screen and the fact that Chuck's like sitting on the edge of this perilous roof in the middle of a snowy day. But then like he gets there and they have this conversation and he's like, you know, what is it like? I don't remember any of the lines specifically, but basically talking about like what is it like having a problem that no one else has, and what is life if you are given a second chance, and all this stuff, like asking the really big questions.
There's something in this, you know. At first, the way I responded to Oscar Vabinius in this episode was I was a little bit creeped out by him because he's doing and saying creepy things.
It feels like they know that though, right? Because he takes the hair.
But what I'm realizing about it as I think about it more is that to me, these interactions she has with him are analogous to like an affair.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where she's like tempted by sharing with him like the things that are important to her because she feels hurt or she feels distanced from the person that she's with. And she just like needs to be understood so deeply that she's willing to make a mistake. And so that reframed for me. First I was creeped out and then I was like, well, this is like purposefully erotic. Him like smelling her hair and close talking and saying like, oh, you know, I understand and I like you're different and all these things. It feels like he's a sort of like figure of temptation.
Yeah. It's like in a satanic way, like in the traditional biblical satanic way.
Yeah, maybe.
Like I'm giving you the thing you didn't even know you wanted, but I'm giving it to you in spades in a way that's like kind of different and twisted.
Yeah, I think in the like storybook context, it makes sense to think of it as like satanic.
Yeah.
Although I think it could be grafted onto like real life where, you know, not all of not all of this sort of temptation is like deeply sinful. It comes from a place of that makes sense. Like every person wants to be understood and to be accepted. And when you're in pain, or when the option in front of you is like everything that you want, it makes sense that you would be persuaded by it. But I think, yeah, in this world, the figure of that temptation has to be the sort of like weird sewer scientist guy. Yeah.
It's I really loved all of the like one-on-one scenes in this episode. I think it shines in those little bits of dialogue. I mean, there is an A plot. There is a crime this episode, which I did really like. I don't know if I mentioned this early on, but maybe I did. Well, like this show often reminds me of the Coen Brothers and Fargo in particular. And this like plot is straight up just Fargo, 100%. We have insurance fraud. We have unknowing criminals. We have a like put upon sad child. We have a person who is entirely committed to their work. Like it really does feel like a Coen Brothers plot. It's really good.
Yeah, that's a good parallel.
It just so it's about there's this kid, and he has basically like a terminal heart disease. And that's shortened his lifespan by a lot. And he was trying to get a heart transplant, but the insurance company deemed him unworthy because he didn't have a lot of money and he didn't have a high life expectancy. So just the powers that be crunched the numbers and said, nope, this guy doesn't get a heart as opposed to someone else. And initially, because the first murder is one of the people who works in the insurance company, they start thinking it was his mother, who's this really like caring, like tries to do her best for him, but like understands that the world is unfair character. I think if we had seen more of her, I would have believed this red herring. But because she was only in it for like literally one scene, I was like, all right, well, it's not that, it doesn't work like that. It's not that easy. Also we literally in this show have already done the mom is mad about the world being unfair to her son plot.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think
the episode ever expected us to believe it was her.
Yeah.
Because at this point they know that we're watching a procedural, and we're not going to believe that the person we meet at minute 25 is the villain, because that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked the reveal of who the killer was. I didn't think I was going to be satisfied by whatever. I thought it was going to be like the CEO of the insurance company.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
like the biggest bad. Yeah.
But it being the wish-a-wish person continues this show's interest in subverting your expectations around like what is good and what is evil.
Right.
Like if the show is all about like death is actually life, and like all of the sweet things like Chuck and like the fruit and the pies and that sort of stuff, they come from death. So like maybe death's not bad. And then last episode, or when we talked about Napoleon Linez and Oscar Verbinius, and it's like, oh, the guy who's all clean and proper is evil, and the guy who's dirty in the sewer is good. And then this episode is saying, whoa, the woman who's all happy and smiley is murderous. It seems to fit with this show's interest in reversing your understanding of very basic assumptions around character archetypes and who is good, who is evil.
Exactly. And I think there's even a read on this show's morality that has to do with economics and work and labor.
Okay.
I've mentioned this before, but like, again, so far most of our villains have been rich men, have been like CEOs or writers or various famous people, and it would be very easy to think that the insurance adjusters are the bad guys in this episode, because like naturally it's right there. They're taking a heart away from a poor kid.
That's
like,
true.
We know that the kid is shitty, but he's ungrateful because the world is super unfair to him. Like he has total reason to be shitty. But they're the ones who are killed. Like it is like comedic how every time we meet an insurance adjuster, before they even get a chance to say a mean thing, it's just their job. They just do a 9 to 5 to work for their family.
Right.
The villain is a person who is so committed to her job and committed to her career and this idea of I can make any wish come true. Like when you let your job become yourself and you let it entirely encompass who you are, when you get a challenge that is hard enough that it feels impossible, you're going 200%, and that'll turn you into a murderer. If this guy said, it's sort of like a twisted genie story in a way.
Yeah.
It's like the one thing I want is I want everybody who denied me a heart to die, or to die, or to fall over, or whatever he says. And she's like, all right, well, let's take that to the word of the law, and let's go out there and start killing. It's really, I feel like there is something there. There is something about like,
there's something,
this is my job.
There's something about like obsession and about the sort of single-minded definition of yourself as like, I need to do this and I need to succeed at this at every possible moment. That is your undoing. I don't know if that, I think we've been able to tie parallels in past episodes between the villain or the crime and Ned and Chuck. I don't know what the connection is here, but that's the nugget that I'm seeing right now.
Yeah. And I think that's just the kind of stuff they can flesh out as much as they want. There's infinite storytelling potential in people having like work problems that turn them into villains. I'm into it. I mean, if this is where the show is going, if this is the quality of the show going forward, then I'm 100% on board.
Yeah.
Because this feels like a perfect type of episode of Pushing Daisies. Like, we have a good crime plot. It relates to the main story. We learn things about the main characters. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful as always. It's weirdly, darkly comedic as always. And it has a really powerful emotional message.
Yeah.
It's just good stuff. Like, I'll be honest, when we started around the middle of this season, I was like, I like this show, but we're kind of sliding into a rut, and we're like quickly whittling away at the really big ideas to talk about. Like, does this show have any more to present to us than it's the stuff we saw in the first episode? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's finally it's turned around for me.
Yeah, same.
Did you have any other stray notes?
No.
My main thing was I just really liked that all of the people who worked at the Uber life insurance company had names based in German.
Yeah.
Steve Kaiser, Bill Richter, Victor Naramore. Just like, I didn't get that. And then as soon as they were like Richter and Kaiser, I was like, wait. That's good. That's good. We're having fun here. But yeah, and then I have a little bit of trivia here. Okay. As mentioned before, this was the last episode handed in before the WGA strike. Before the start of the strike, many rewrites, many, if not all, written by Ryan Fuller, were done so that this episode could function as a season finale. Therefore, the first season only had 9 episodes, only 13 short of the episodes ordered by ABC. Oh, and then the other 13 were the rest. That's season 2. Interesting. While Chuck is in the cemetery, she comments that she has no headstone and that they wait a year for the permanent marker, which is a reference to the Jewish tradition of unveiling a headstone on the first year anniversary of someone's death. Tying into Emerson's comments in the pilot about Chuck's family burying her so quickly, again, according to Jewish tradition. Mm-hmm. And then in this episode, Chuck's father's name is revealed to be Charles, keeping up with the running gag of redundancies. Mm-hmm. Bonobo is actually a species of chimpanzee, not monkey. That's all right, guys. Someone's a nerd.
I was gonna say.
In this holiday episode, I noticed this. In this holiday episode, some Christmas classics were peppered throughout the score. They did like royalty-free versions of Jingle Bells and like dance like Sugar Plum Fairy and all that stuff in here. I kept hearing it and I was like, because they would do like the beginning of one, like dun 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 dun. Like, you're like, wait a minute, did I hear that? I think that's really cool. I think that's a really fun way to like do a Christmas episode without getting sued.
Agreed.
References to The Iceman Cometh, the one that we both laughed at, Olive saying to Ned, I also heard you walking the streets moaning her name like something out of a Tennessee Williams. Just Streetcar Named Desire plastered right there. And yeah, that's what I got.
Great.
So I wanted to ask you in general, Magellan, what have you thought about season 1 so far? What did you like? What did you not like? Highlights, and what do you want to see?
Yeah, I really love the tone of this show, the way it looks, the way it feels, the way it's shot, the way the characters talk. Everything about it feels different and like something that I want to see as much of as possible. I think, well, I also liked certain interactions between Ned and Chuck that drive at showing us a relationship that is further along in development than other relationships that we see in shows like this, because we're able to start with the assumption of like they both love each other. It's not a question of like, are they going to love each other? Are they going to kiss? What's going to happen? No, they love each other, and now they're going to have like real beginning of a relationship problems with each other. And so you take the frame of reference that most shows have on relationships and you shift it just a little bit down the road, so you can answer different questions than are usually asked. The stuff that I'm a little more hesitant with, and I'm curious to see how much of this is just because we're seeing the show in the midst of the writer's strike. It just kind of feels like they're still not great at tying the case of the week to why I should care about it. And I want to see more work done to make that feel purposeful. Because I'm not interested in this just being a procedural that's about like solving the case.
Yeah,
that's
no
not
thanks.
that's not what the show is supposed to be. So I'm not like upset, and I don't think that they did a bad job. I'm just curious to see how they continue to work through it for season 2. In terms of predictions, I think the biggest question that has to be answered in this show is like, will it ever be possible for Ned and Chuck to touch each other? Will that ever happen? And I think that has to be answered and decided at some point. Either there's like some loophole that makes it so that they can, or there's some reason for them to part ways, or there's some reason for her to die again. One of those things I think is going to happen. Probably the first one, but I don't know.
Right. God,
What about you?
Yeah, I have a lot of comments. So basically, I like a lot of those same things. I also just really appreciate this show's optimism, and this is a thing that Brian Fuller in general is really good at, from what little I've seen of Hannibal. But taking the morbid and making it inspirational and meaningful and beautiful. Because Hannibal is a show about a murderer who kills people in like creative, twisted, gruesome ways, but they're filmed like art pieces and like almost borderline like pornographic, like food and like comparisons to like gourmet cooking and the way that you photograph that. And like Pushing Daisies takes that idea about and does it about death.
Yeah.
And like we think so much and we talk so much about like spirits and what does it mean to die on this show, and like why do we die and what do we try to do before we die? Like what does a life mean and what is a life worth living? And it wraps it up in this really like positive bow that, to be honest, is like nicer and more like uplifting than a lot of shows that have nothing to do with crime or death or anything like that. It is a show that makes me confident that death is something to be loved and not feared. Things I don't like, I feel like you said, the pacing can often feel kind of off with the show, and it's taken a little while to find its legs. I think that there were episodes early on that I liked a lot more than the middle, and then the end worked out really well, but definitely there were a few episodes there in the middle where I was like, yeah, like I get what we're doing here, but you and I are the same in that we pretty much always want more of the like series long plot as opposed to the episode per episode plot.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's just more enjoyable. So yeah, as long as we keep getting stuff like that, I think this show will continue to impress. From what I haven't seen basically anything of season 2, except that, well, I've like heard ideas of it. There's like another musical number. It's longer. It's 13 episodes, and they expand the cast a little bit. Not like the main cast, but there's a lot more people like introduced.
Okay.
My main hope for season 2 is that we get better at blending the A plot and the B plots together. That's like, if we can hit that perfect balance like we did in this finale, then we're good. We nailed it. That's it. That's like a perfect season. I think my immediate guess was like Chuck has to die at some point. He has to touch Chuck again.
I think so, but isn't that so sad?
That's what I'm saying.
Isn't
The show
that
is
too
not
sad?
right. It goes against what I was just saying about this show. Is like that's a huge bummer. If he's like, well, Chuck, like, the only way that they can make that work is if like if they make it something that she wants, and she realizes
Right.
that like it's her coming to grips with like, no, death was not the end. I was never like gone from you, in death, and I'm willing to go back myself, and makes that choice herself. And it's even then though it's a little rough. So I
Yeah.
that's just the easy response. Maybe maybe they find a loophole. I hope so. But I like that there's hope. I like that this show has made us hopeful, and it's not a cynical like, yeah, of course she's gonna get killed at the end. Like that's how it works.
Right.
I think that's really great about this series.
Yeah, I agree.
So to look forward, next week on DaisyChatz, we are going to be beginning season 2 of Pushing Daisies. Magellan, my boy, Magellan Shonen. What what episodes are we watching next week?
Next week, we are watching the first 2 episodes of Season 2. First up is Episode 1, Bzzz, which I think is a bee sound. Chuck goes undercover as a bee girl at a honey-based cosmetics company after their new spokesmodel is stung to death. She soon discovers that office politics are killer, literally, between the founder, played by Missy Pyle, and the new owner. Meanwhile, Ned can't stand her growing independence or the fact that she wants to move out of his apartment. Ooh.
Oh.
In other developments, Lily spirits Olive off to a nunnery so she won't spill Lily's deep, dark secret.
Do they say get thee to a nunnery? Are we doing that?
I guess so, yeah.
Oh boy.
The second episode is called Circus Circus. Georgianne Heaps, played by Rachel Harris, hires Emerson to find her missing daughter, who has apparently run away, and the trail leads to a circus surrounded by murder in the form of several dead clowns.
Oh.
Meanwhile, Ned and Chuck try to deal with the change in their relationship, and Olive considers staying longer at the nunnery. Oh my god.
This nunnery is going to be a thing, isn't it?
Oh, this show's too much.
I love it to death.
All right.
I love it to death. Get it?
Ha
ha. I haven't done the backwards edit thing on this podcast in a while, but I miss doing it. You know what happens is I'll do it like for a cold open. I used to occasionally would do a joke where we would say something in our pre-roll, and then I would just play it backwards and like loop it in stupid ways. I stopped doing that because I don't like the idea of showing somebody like, oh, here's my television podcast. Like, this is my thing my friend Magellan and I do. And the intro is Magellan being like, stuff. It's just embarrassing. So I keep those for myself, and I share them amongst my friends, but not for the actual pod. But I digress. That is where we are. Magellan.
Yes.
Sorry, I just ran out of words there. I need to sort of fill myself with more words. Let me open up the fridge.
Yeah.
Let's look inside for some words. Ooh,
Anything good in there?
Banana.
Okay.
Ovulate.
Yep.
Okay, let's see if we can make something out of this.
Super useful.
Waltz.
Okay.
Plug zone. Huh. Okay. Banana waltz. Da 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 da. Oh. Hi, welcome to the plug zone where we plug our stuff. Whew. Tough crowd out there tonight. How you doing? tip your waitress. You can follow the show over on Twitter at ChatzPod. That's spelled ChatZPod. You can email us feedback, comments, questions for the middle segment at chatspod@gmail.com. And rate us on iTunes. Rate us 5 stars if you like us or not. Leave us a review, write one if you'd like, and recommend us to your friends.
Yeah.
In addition, if you would like to support us and get access to some bonus content, go ahead and check out patreon.com/chatspod, where if you back us at $2 a month or more, you will get access to any and all secret special recordings that we do for our chatsies over there. It helps us out a lot. Magellan, where can people find you on the online?
People can find me online on Twitter at JustAFluke. That's JUSTAPFLUKE. They can also listen to me on another show called adulthood.simplecast.fm. Alan, what about you?
Wait, when's the next Adulthood coming out?
Soon. I'm about to be on summer break, so I have more time to live my life and do what do the things I love.
But I love it. Like, hang out with me?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, man. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. My new favorite Vine. We have to do a new Vine every week. It just keeps happening. True life. I'm allergic to my own goddamn dick.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's what's his face? Cole, the guy with the glasses. Nicki
Oh,
Minaj.
yeah, he's really funny.
True life. I'm allergic to my own goddamn dick. You can find me online at Alan Ibrahim on Twitter. That's ALLENIBRAHIM. I'm taking a little social media break, though, for the summer, so don't expect to find me there. But do follow it. It's a good account. It's going to hit its 10-year anniversary while I'm not on it. So, whoops, nice. Sorry. That's really wild to think about. But yeah, you can also listen to me on 2 other podcasts. One is The Garnet Wager, found on scanlinemedia.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. It's where my friend Six and I watch the Korean game show The Genius and make bets and win prizes, and it's a very, very fun time. Also, check out Fireside Friends. It's a monthly podcast that I do with Ryan and Katie, my friends, where we talk about friendly media and discuss it in a fun and critical way. And that's at firesidefriends.net.
Cool.
Thank you. No, personally, thank you, dear listener. I don't mean to sound accusatory, but thank you for listening to this episode of DaisyChatz.
You're welcome.
Keep on... You're welcome. You're welcome. That's it.
No, say it. Say the thing.
Say the thing. What's the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to say the line?
Yeah, the sign-off phrase.
Yeah, that classic DaisyChatz sign-off phrase. What is it, Magellan?
I
know what it is. Oh, there it is. I stepped all over it. Bye.